Welcome to the Waiver Wire show presented by Legit Football and brought to you by our partners at Splash. I'm Brian McFadden, co-founder of Legit Football. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Phillip Fox. Kevin, we're at another juncture. I did not get to do this. You were doing this solo last week. Appreciate you filling in.
Absolutely, sir. Missed you.
But hey, the show must go on.
Oh,
The
yeah.
season must go on. The waiver wire claims must go on. So we're going to do things a little bit different this week, Kevin. We like to switch things up. We have a top 10 list for you guys. For this your first time watching, we're going to go through our top 10 list. There will be a time at the end. If you have some questions specifically waiver wire related, you can put it in the chat. Otherwise, we have our fantasy Q&A show every Thursday. But Kevin, we're going to have your list.
Dude, so much pressure. When you told me that, my heart kind of sunk a little bit because I can't just like fall back on like, well, Brian's list is there. So, I really got to own these choices now, man.
Front and center, and let me say there I may have a little nit to pick here and
let's
there.
go. I love that. Yes, absolutely, Brian. I'm very excited about it.
So yeah, we're going to put Kevin's list up of his top 10 waiver wire picks for week 10. I'm going to give my thoughts onto the order, some thoughts on the individual players, and maybe a name or two or three that I was surprised not to see on there. But Kevin, are you ready to let's jump in? Waiver wire week 10. We're at the half. This is like the official halfway point, by the way.
Dude, it's so sad, but it's also so great because it means like the real stretch of football is coming. November is that extra little, breeze of cold in the air. That means real football is right around the corner.
Well, on that note, let's give the people what they want. So unveiling the list. Here we go. This is Kevin's top 10 waiver wire list. Kevin, I'm just going to let you roll from the top down.
So it's not actually, just for the record.
Oh, wait.
Might be an older graphic. Might be an older graphic.
This is literally, he put it on a different
technical
difficulties.
Good. Technical difficulties, but that's okay. I looked at it and I was like, there's no way Dalton Kincaid could be on the list.
No. I know exactly what happened here. I just realized. Nope, that didn't do it either. Hey, all right, why don't you read your list? Let's
absolutely. I'll go through my list. I do also have to address the Takado Luna smack talk in the chat. We just want to ask Kevin if he's doing okay. No, I'm not. Thank you, but not at all. Appreciate you for rubbing it in. And Armand is here. We're happy to see Armand. He's the absolute GOAT. Number one on my list today is Tyjae Spears. And that's a name that's been on this list. This could be called the Tyjae Spears show, and it would still play. People would still understand what they're signing up for because he's just criminally underrated, criminally under-rostered. It's absolute BS.
I got it.
There we go, baby.
I got there.
That's the list we're looking for. And
this is what happens when you're producing your show while you're hosting. I'm clicking all sorts of buttons, but we made it there, Kev. We're
here.
Let's start with your number one, Tyjae.
Yeah, Tyjae Spears, and he's just been criminally under-rostered all season, and he still somehow is at that threshold, and I absolutely love picking him up as a definite desperation flex play right now and an absolute league-winning stud if Derrick Henry ever goes down.
So here are my thoughts. Right off the bat, I have some issues, and I like Spears. We've been talking about him all season, but at what point does he could have league-winning upside go out the window because the trade deadline is gone?
Yeah.
Derrick Henry is still on the Titans. Guess what? Tyjae Spears has been out-snapping Derrick Henry in all but 2 games this year, so that's not new. And yet his best finish has been RB29. And other than week 5 when that was his one touchdown. So at what point do we say maybe he shouldn't be our top waiver wire priority because Henry's not going anywhere?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's definitely fair. It's definitely a fair question. I kind of like my rule is talent and opportunity, and we try to blend that. I think Tyjae Spears' talent has just been proven to be so unbelievable, and the touches that he's gotten, he's looked so great. And a lot of these guys, some of them, there's a health contingency. Some of them, there's is it a flash in the pan contingency? I feel like there's a certain level of, I don't want to say consistency because he is still a backup, but there's a certain level of standalone value regardless. And it's also just like, it feels like the lowest hanging fruit. Tyjae Spears is a free agent. Go scoop him up. Like, he shouldn't be. He's on all my benches.
I think there's lower hanging fruit. And that's your number 2. And I would have put Tank Dell
Yeah.
at number 1. We all know how much of a Tank Dell fan I am, even more so than Tajay Spears.
Yeah.
Here's what you might not know. So ESPN just released this new advanced wide receiver metrics. I don't know if you saw that.
I haven't.
Well, Tank Dell is number 4 in open rate amongst
Mm.
wide receivers.
That doesn't surprise me. He's such a separator, man.
Such a separator. Only guys ahead of him: Brandon Ayuk, Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson. That is some nice company to be
Yeah.
in. But here's the thing that also surprised me. A lot of people don't realize. Where do you think Tank Dell is in points per game as far as a wide receiver ranking?
I would assume he's probably between like 14 and like 25 would be my guess.
Okay, yeah, 19.
Hey, right
So
in the
if
middle.
you're guessing that, if you're guessing that you have wide receiver 19 or even as high as 14, as you said, on the waiver wire
Yeah.
for the year, because he's had a bye, he missed a game. But as far as points per game, Tank Dell is wide receiver 19. He is a wide receiver 2, people.
Yeah.
He should, if he's out there somehow, that's your scoop and score for me.
And I do really appreciate you kind of highlighting that, because I do kind of feel like it's very team dependent. I feel like running backs are so, we are desperate to have running backs in fantasy football every single year. They're the depreciating asset. They're the asset that's harder to get your hands on. So when you can, you should. But you bring up a great point that Tank Dell, even given, because I kind of, there's a lot of spike weeks there. The average, he's wide receiver 19 in points per game, but he's disappeared at times. He's been banged up at times. So there's a little bit of that boom bust factoring in here that kind of like takes away. But I mean, obviously Spears is
Booms
we
can
said,
win you championships.
100%. And if
You
you're
need those
looking
booms.
to inject volatility into your lineup, there's nowhere better than Tank Dell. So definite great. That's why he's number 2. Let's not act like I'm besmirching.
Oh, I know, no, it's not. But I just noticed this. I'm like, oh, I would have Tank Dell at number 1. The fact that he's even eligible to be on this list at this
Blasphemous.
stage, and it's probably because he got injured and they had a bye week, so we haven't seen him in a few weeks. So he kind of falls off people's radars. Probably dropped him to get other roster moves out. But hey, no, Tank Dell qualifies for this list. I think last I checked, he was at about 52% owned across most leagues.
Insane.
Go get him. You did bring up a good point about positional scarcity. If we are talking about running back, though, if it's me, I'm going to put number 3 ahead of number 1 as well.
You'd go 2, 3, 1 if it was yours. Okay,
I can respect Keaton Mitchell, and then Tajay.
I can respect that
right after that,
for sure.
For a few reasons. One is, and I know the backfield's crowded, and
Yeah.
John Harbaugh said they're going to split it amongst all of them. We see the Gus Edwards getting that goal line work. Justice Hill is still the lead. He's getting more touches and snaps than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And then Keaton Mitchell just went off for 138 yards on 9 touches. But here's the thing. We don't know. Keaton is still the mystery box a little bit. We 100%. Know what we're getting out of Tajay. And Dynasty, look, Tajay is it. He could be the RB. He will most likely be the RB1 in Tennessee next year.
Yeah.
But in this Ravens offense, which, and side note, I think this Ravens team might just be the best team in the NFL right now. Just saying that. Mitchell could have a much bigger impact. Like we've seen what Spears' impact is. I think that's my point.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Mitchell is going to have that impact, but he might, whereas Spears would kind of know what his impact is.
Yeah. And I think the path for Mitchell to get there is a little more realistic. Who he's unseating is not as established as a Derrick Henry. You're looking at already the 3 and 4 running backs on that team to start the season. So basically, I don't think there's anything wrong with, prioritizing Keaton Mitchell, because you kind of mentioned Spears. We kind of know what he can be. But Mitchell, the sky is really the limit. He kind of has that Achane explosiveness.
I almost used that. I'm like, it could be another Achane. Like, let's not.
It's a hot take. It's blasphemous. Yeah, Achane's earned some flowers.
Right, because he did it multiple times, and we need to see Mitchell do it again.
Definitely, and there's no doubt. And I think that what makes Mitchell such a great pickup is that Gus and Hill, in my opinion, even though they're great players, very good depth pieces at running back, they're not exactly unseatable. I think they could get unseated. Not easily, but it could happen. I do see the path for that. Easier than Spears.
Let's keep going down your list. You have DeMario Pop Douglas,
yes, sir,
at number 4.
Yes, sir. And I believe a handful of weeks ago, I had him on my list before his breakout. And
we did have him on one of these. It lives on YouTube. Everybody can go watch this.
Go check the receipts.
Yeah, check our receipts.
No, there's just so much upside with this player, and uh, unfortunately, I hate dunking on people. It makes it a little easier that it's the Patriots, but this Juju Smith-Schuster contract looks like the biggest dumpster fire that's ever happened.
Oh, especially
And
seeing how Jacoby Myers is balled out this year.
oh yeah, it makes it even worse,
Yeah.
100%. And so there's a void of targets there. And we saw Juju drop the pass that ended the game last week. He's awful. And so Pop Douglas is probably the whole role that when Kendrick Bourne went down, they asked Mac Jones, like, who do you foresee stepping up? And he brought up Juju. And I think it's because of money, maybe, or who knows, but they
Established
can't
veteran,
they can't trust Juju anymore, man. And that, to me, that means Pop Douglas should be next in line. And I think we've seen that with the targets. We've seen that with I brought up last time that they're drawing up complex looks for him. They're giving him sweeps. They're giving him screens. I think it suggests a desire to get him the ball. And I think that's why he should be this high on the list.
So he is led the Patriots in targets and yards. It's the clear-cut number one wide receiver in New England right now. Here's my problem. He still plays for New England.
Mm-hmm.
He still plays for a bad Patriots offense that is stuck in the mud. Mac Jones, I think his days are numbered. Maybe not this season, but long term certainly. Yeah. Patriots are actually in striking distance of drafting a quarterback. So
seriously,
Mac could be 2 and out. So that is my own concern. Is not a referendum on the player or his talent, more that how much can he actually produce in this Patriots offense.
So the only caveat to that is that there are yards to be had. Mac is throwing at a pretty decent yardage clip. 220, nothing really special, but
how much of that goes to Hunter Henry? How much of this goes to Ramondre Stevenson out of the backfield?
Yeah.
So these aren't wide receivers, but I think that's where a good chunk of that is coming from.
For sure. And so, and I almost think it's the kind of thing where it's like, if we have to hold our breath until that Patriots garbage time down 2 scores, handful of drives that gets them, closer to fantasy relevance. I mean, yeah, I do understand that. I mean, there's definitely a clear tier break after our top 3 before Pop Douglas, but especially in PPR, he's a very viable sort of hold your breath and throw him in your flex and probably get, between
there are a lot of significant buys this week, so you may have to pick up more people than you normally would. You have 2 quarterbacks on your list. Let's go ahead and talk about the first one, number 5.
I sure do. And number 5 is a guy who, if you recall in the draft process, I absolutely loved. And when I saw him get his opportunity, I felt very vindicated because Will Levis is a dog, man. He is a gamer.
He's not afraid to sling it. I will say that much.
He really is not afraid to sling it. Absolutely. Yeah. And we saw that sort of rear its ugly head at the end of last week's game. My goodness, he was just throwing gimme picks. And only one of them got picked, but they were all, he was just throwing cupcakes. But like you mentioned, he's not afraid. And that is so great for fantasy football, especially on a team that has such a good defense. So, they're going to be in a lot of close games. He has a nice set of weapons with Henry, Spears, DeAndre Hopkins, Chigakonkwo. I think Chigakonkwo might be fantasy viable again. And then we all heard.
Remember when he was a thing in the offseason?
Yeah, I really thought too, and he looked so great. But today, the news came out that Vrabel announced the transition. The baton has been
Levis
passed.
is the starter for the rest of the season.
Yeah. So that's huge for, you might have, I mean, especially obviously in Superflex. I mean, he's probably already rostered, but in a redraft, I mean, you could do a lot worse than gunslinging young quarterback for a team who's going to be competitive rest of season.
All right, let's go on for the second half of your top 10. Number 6, before you get started, is he even eligible for this?
I feel like he's got to be, right? He's been dropped so much. Is he not?
I looked and he was at like 68% rostered.
Oh, damn. Okay. I was maybe using a different data set than you.
Feel free to give your thoughts on John.
I'll still talk about him, and we can throw in an honorary number 6 when we get to the bottom of the list. But Jahan Dodson, I mean, obviously
quickly, because these guys probably won't be able to pick him up.
Yeah, he's an absolute stud. Obviously, we've all known that. He had all the hype coming into the season, and
he's on a little bit of a tear. He's averaging nearly 9 targets a game over the past 3 games. So
to
be determined if that continues. But those 3 games, he's getting fed.
And just so you guys know, this just validates my pick. Brian McFadden tried to trade for him in our Dynasty League because I have him. So
you haven't even responded. Who said tried?
I was mulling it.
You keep
Okay,
saying mulling, but you didn't even say, hey, I don't know.
it
Mull
was a
away.
very
Let's hear.
Brian started with a good offer, you guys. He did not lowball me, and it's very scary to me. It's scary. I don't like it.
I have extra draft picks.
I'm not used to it.
I need to make moves.
So
All right,
forward.
so let's keep on rolling. You have another Washington Commander at number 7, Antonio Gibson,
Yeah, and Antonio Gibson,
former
especially
fantasy darling, Antonio Gibson.
absolutely for RB1 two years in a row, which is ridiculous in hindsight. Now what we've seen him become, but he's sort of weirdly playing the JD McKissick role that we
Mhm.
used to all hate. But he's a PPR machine. You know, he goes out there. It's very clear that Sam Howell trusts him. He's the 2-minute drill guy. He's the third down guy, and he's a very very talented and electric player. He really is a Brian Robinson injury away from having that RB1 upside that he used to have that we've already seen. He's a proven commodity. He's an absolute stud. Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this his contract year?
He is in his 4th year, correct?
So I would love to see him go to a team. I mean, Dynasty, obviously, he should be on a team. But man, could you imagine Gibson getting the workload again? I miss it. I miss it a lot.
All right, let's keep on rolling. We got 3 more on your list.
Keep on rolling. We got Noah Brown at number 8, and
Second
this is
Texans wide receiver
yeah,
on this list. Look at
and
that.
it's crazy to think about because rookie QBs usually don't feed 3 fantasy viable wide receivers, but CJ Stroud is different. He's a unique and exceptional talent, and we all knew that coming into the draft. The S2 BS was absolute bonkers. He deserves all the credit, all the accolades. He's probably odds-on favorite for offensive rookie of the year. I think he's probably the runaway candidate right now.
He's a shoo-in unless he gets injured.
Yeah, it feels like it. And so there's yards to go around. And Noah Brown, we saw that explosive touchdown that he had last week, and a 75-yard touchdown. That's just a shot in the arm. I actually picked him up in our dynasty league prior to the game because I had a feeling, he's very talented. He looked great last season in his opportunities. I kind of always wanted to see him get more opportunities. He played for Dallas, correct?
Yes.
Kind of always wanted him to get more opportunities. But it wasn't to be. Now he's in a place where he really seems to be a focal point of the offense. I'm gonna hedge
Robert
it.
Woods was
That
out.
was if Woods comes back,
right.
Because I don't know the timetable on Woods' injury, but
I think Nico and Dell are the clear 1-2. And then when they go into 3 wide receiver sets, 11 personnel.
Yeah.
Robert Woods is the vet.
Yep.
So I don't know he's not going to get as many opportunities as he did this week against the Bucs.
It gets a little dicier at that point. So keep your eyes on that. But he's not a bad flyer to have by any means. Number 9, I have Zach Charbonnet. It looks like the Seahawks trust in him has really gone up, and Ken Walker's health. I mean, he's Ken Walker. You never know when he's going to miss a game here or there. And Charbonnet, we loved him coming out of the draft. It was such a bummer when he went to a team with an already established RB1. But that being said, like Ken Walker's injury history is he's got a CVS receipt of injuries.
But not only that, I mean, Walker's been healthy and played the last 2 games, and Charbonnet has still outsnapped him 2 weeks in a row now.
Which is
he hasn't done anything with the outsnap, but
earning the trust of the Seahawks coaching staff and Pete Carroll is such a big deal. So definite credit to Charbonnet there. Do you have anything you want to add on Charbonnet?
Nope. Just that he's outsnapped. He has played 2 tough defenses the past 2 weeks. So if he continues to outsnap and they get some lighter defenses, we could see Charbonnet's production go up. I think he's worth a stash if you have a roster spot. We talked about running back scarcity earlier.
Yep. And last but not least, I have Vikings quarterback Josh Dobbs. He's a folk legend.
The chosen one.
He is such a freaking dog, man. We've seen it time and time again. He did it in Arizona. He gets traded less than 5 days from the time he's traded. He's thrust into action when Jaren Hall goes down with concussion, and he goes out there and does what he does. Now, here's why Josh Dobbs belongs on this list. The Vikings have one of the most insane weapon sets in the entire NFL. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson, Middleton's out there making plays. We should know
tomorrow, by the way, if they're going to activate Justin Jefferson's 21-day practice window off the IR.
And when you walk into that situation as a player who is, look, let's be real, a backup, but a higher end backup, a good backup, you could still have fantasy football relevance as a backup player. Josh Dobbs, I don't want to throw cold water on the folk legend. I don't think he's a starter in the NFL, but he absolutely has an insane amount of charisma and spunk, and he will have outstanding fantasy football weeks, as evidenced by his last performance.
You know he's QB 10 on the year.
Of course,
Josh Dobbs.
Of course,
2 different teams.
This is such a weird season.
QB 10s. He finished QB 5 on Sunday in a game where he didn't know the people's names that he was throwing the ball.
And he like played
to.
like the second half. Did he came in the second quarter?
No, it was early. Jared Hall, I think,
early?
went out in the first quarter. He had that concussion early. But here's the thing: he didn't know the playbook. He had Kevin O'Connell telling him what the play was, and then him telling him what the play meant. Like, this guy's gonna be here, like in real time. And this guy's a rocket scientist. He literally is like a rocket scientist, like a NASA guy. But yes, phenomenal.
It's so exciting for the league. And hey, if you want to have fun, add Josh Dobbs in fantasy and throw him in there, because that will be fun.
At his rushing floor, I mean, this is a guy who's putting up points.
Yeah.
QB 10 for the season. This is not like a flash. Oh, he had one good week and yay, pat him on the back. But let's stay on the quarterback. I do have 3 names I want to throw out there that aren't on your list.
Yeah.
And one is a quarterback who, at least when I checked, was actually only at about 38% rostered. And not only is he practicing, he has been activated onto the active roster. Kyler Murray.
He's still eligible.
Kyler Murray is eligible for waiver wires. So if you have him out there, you have to. I know he's got the ACL. I know that he's not going to be as mobile at first, but it's still Kyler Murray. This is a guy who number one overall pick.
Yeah, he could be one on this list.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So wanted to mention him first. A couple other names. Here's a quarterback who also plays tight end, who also plays running back.
Oh.
How about some Taysom Hill love?
That's crazy. He's so awesome, dude. Again, very surprised that he's eligible. He's like tight end 3.
But he's tight end 9 on the season, but he's been tight end 6 or better 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So forget the rest of the season when the Saints forgot that they had freaking Taysom Hill on their roster. Now they're using him properly. He's tight end 6 or better the last 4 weeks. And you can plug him in a quarterback, and you can plug him in a tight end.
He's actually
still has all these rosters, all these platforms still have QB, tight end. So
he's actually a focal point of the offense this season. It's so fun to watch, man. He's such an exciting player, and it's the kind of thing where it's like everybody always says, like, why don't more people do this? Really, look at the success of Taysom Hill. Why don't more people do that? It's electric to watch.
Yeah, and then finally, a name that we've mentioned. Actually, you were the first to bring him up early this year, and it's not a sexy pick. But how about a little Jonnu Smith love?
Yeah.
Jonnu Smith, tight end 1 in Atlanta. We can all fuss about Arthur Smith and why that should not be the case, but it is the case. So he is tight end 11 overall. And that's, if you take Goddard out, who is now an injured reserve, he's a top 10 tight end.
Yeah.
They're using him in goal line rushes over Bijan. We can hate it, but it's still a reality. He had a huge catch and run, a long 60-yard touchdown. Taylor Heineke clearly likes him. Tight end is such a barren landscape. Get a guy like Jonnu Smith if you've got the roster spot.
I don't hate it at all. It's very much the kind of thing where it's like they're showing us who they trust every single week. So why would we question it? You know what I mean? Like, why would we say we know better than you? Yeah. Trust me, your tight end 2 is better than your he's our tight end 1. You're exactly right. And the tight end 1 for a run first offense is usually a great piece because running teams tend to have more tight ends on the field and they tend to target tight ends more often. So, Brian, it's absolutely a great pick. It's kind of you're right. It's not sexy. Take your Tums, throw in Jonnu Smith. It's not, I don't hate it.
Especially if you have Dallas Goedert. If you can't get a Taysom Hill, plug in a top 10 tight end.
Yeah,
absolutely. And in redraft, because next year when there's a different head coach for the Atlanta Falcons, it might not be.
Can it be sooner?
Same thing.
Can it please be sooner?
We would all wish it were sooner. But I do think that the Saints, I was actually looking at their schedule. The Saints have one of the easiest schedules left in the NFL, and they're in first place. So I think the Saints can ride this out. Falcons won't make the playoffs. Bye-bye, Artie Smith. We will not miss you.
Yeah, I can't stand what he's done to Bijan, man. It is so depressing.
Well, we're not going to end on a downer.
No, sir.
You guys go out there, make your waiver wire picks.
Yes,
starting to get closer and closer to the playoff race in fantasy. Don't get cheap on your fob now. If you have some fobs, spend it on guys like a Tank Dell wide receiver 19. Spend it on a Kyler Murray if he's still out there. Take a flyer on a guy like Keaton Mitchell who could take over that RB1 spot in a very, very high-powered Baltimore offense. Kevin, Are you ready to keep this train going, man? And one
Oh,
more,
dude.
another week, another. I love this.
If only, I swear to God, it's the best, dude. I love football so much. If only we both could win the legit football dynasty championship. We can't, unfortunately. So,
Yeah.
I can't, all this great advice that I'm just giving you, it doesn't feel right, bro.
We'll see if I. Without going into detail, I tried to tank during our startup draft, and
You
somehow
did.
I'm in second place.
You did.
So
Hey,
go
accidentally
figure.
good. That's the team name. It's a beautiful
Accidentally
thing.
Good is now the name of the team. All right, on behalf of Kevin Phillip Fox, I am Brian McFadden. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to come back for the fantasy Q&A show. That is going to be every Thursday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. I will not be on this week, but you'll see the Buffalo Trio, Kevin Phillip Fox. You'll see the Pro Football Demon, and I will try to get on hopefully for the rest of the season after this Thursday.
Please do.
Go
It's
put in those
awesome.
waiver wires. Good luck. Don't be cheap on FOB, and hope everybody wins their matchups.